By the way, when we talk about the feedback that we receive, we want to thank you as well for all the suggestions in regards to the topics that we should cover. And here by demand is another discussion revolving around the generic talk on drug and substance abuse. We get a lot of requests on that and asking for specialists to come on the show. Of course, with the ongoing debate in the country on Moka, we have listened to you and we've finally gotten around to it. And so today we're actually tackling Moka as a substance addiction. So what do we need to know about how it affects you, and obviously how that affects, perhaps you would say, your mood and your wellness? When they actually talk about the risks surrounding it, what do we actually need to know? So we're happy because we're going to be hearing first-hand experience this morning from a former Moka user. We're talking about Caleb Mukoma. He's here on set. Caleb is actually at the furthest end. Caleb, karibu sana to the show. Okay, and of course we've got our expert in studio, counseling psychologist James Washeke here with us. James, karibu sana.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, gentlemen, I think we're going to have a very interesting discussion. And before I get to you, James, allow me to just start off with Caleb, because it's important to understand one's experience. And I think we want to hear your story first. How did you even get to learn, to try, and actually develop the habit of chewing?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now, you know, I came to realize that there's a very big difference between company and peer pressure.
Okay.
Peer pressure basically is the fact that you're fearing missing out on something that is happening. You want to be part of it. Company is the people that you hang around with whenever you're free or you really don't have anything that much to do. And they are engaging in something that doesn't seem harmful at that particular point.
Right.
So why not give it a shot? So mine was about basically the company. I lasted much longer than I should have. You know, within the circle of the people that I used to hang out with immediately after high school.
Right.
So one thing leads to the other, and Mogoka iko kwa mdomo. And that lasted for quite some time, about 10 years. And it's not a path that I would wish anyone to begin. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And in your 10-year span, you had no idea that there would be any side effects or it would harm you in any way?
I've lost 2 premolars to chewing cat and but then you know, you can only connect the dots backwards.
Right.
It's after you've gone through the experience, the side effects begin to manifest.
Right.
After a very long duration of time, you lose so much.
Right.
You lose opportunities. You lose appetite.
Right.
Your health deteriorates. You know, you literally create a virtual world where you're the main character of your own story, that you're the one directing and you're the boss.
Right.
Yeah, so now you get used to that lifestyle that you don't want to get out of.
Right.
And that is basically where addiction sets in.
Right.
Because now you literally cannot get yourself out of it. It takes the hand of God or some supernatural powers for you to get out, or rehabilitation.
Right. Okay, then that hand of God is, I suppose, people like James in the field of psychology, because I mean, this is what you deal with pretty much every single day, and you've seen different variations when it comes to addiction, James. But we want to actually understand, what is it about Moka that makes it addictive?
Okay, thank you, Shiko. One thing, let me first appreciate Caleb for coming out and sharing this experience. You know, it's not easy to tell your story, especially when you have really struggled with addiction. But generally, like any other drug, Moka have its own compounds that make it quite addictive. You know, one thing with Moka, as Caleb is saying, it is a stimulant substance. It makes you feel high. And as he's saying, you see, it makes you start acting a movie on, on your own world. In other words, it's trying to tell us, it drives you from reality. You know, it starts making you sure you're focusing on things more so they don't really exist.
Right.
And again, as any drug we use, you know, we use drug to feel high, to feel nice, to seek pleasure in this case. So Moka happens to be also such kind of a drug that men more so use, you know, to feel high, you know, kind of to try to forget what you are going through. You know, and that's why we see sometimes we say Moka have two aspects. To some people, they think it is a cultural substance. When you go to Mount Kenya East, you know, people take it as a cultural substance there. But to some people like Caleb and other addicts there, they start as a social substance, you know, it brings us together and all that. And once we start chewing, like 3 to 4 of us, we start feeling high. Then as you proceed, you know, stories start coming up, because as you take it in, it is stimulating your body, you know, making you feel nice more and more as you take it. Eventually, you get stuck there. As Caleb is saying, you don't know when you are getting addicted. It starts like a joke. Only to realize now you are there. And now the worst side of an addiction is it takes other people. Now to start seeing things are not okay. You know,
to start pointing it out.
Yes, to start pointing out. It's very hard as an addict to come out and say, hey, I'm addicted here. You know, from the experience as a psychologist, you know, and being in rehab for quite some time, if you ask any person who's struggling, especially with Moka, they will say, I had no idea I was addicted. It took another person to tell you're not okay. And generally that sounds like a common line in mental health.
It's a cliche,
you know, because mental health issues and addiction issues, they don't pain. Today, Shiko, if you feel a headache, you'll go there, get a painkiller, and the next minute you're okay. That's not the case with mental health illnesses and most addictions. You know, you keep enjoying and enjoying because they come with a lot of pressure until other people start realizing, oh, you're not yourself. Things are not okay here.
Okay, and for you, Caleb, I mean, just picking off what James has said, was there just this constant good feel factor that was always there every time you were chewing? And how many times in a week would you be chewing?
I was a daily member.
Oh, what?
And you know, Mogoka, the high that comes with Mogoka and cathinone and all that stuff, it's constant. That is, it's not like alcohol or cigarettes where today you can bum a cigarette, tomorrow you'll gain the urge to bum much more numbers of cigarettes. Mogoka is constant. The feeling that you got on the first day, the moment you get used to that feeling, that's it for the rest of the time that you're using it. So stagnation sets in when it controls you actually, because now you used to have the desire to want it. Now you have to have it for you to delegate your duties and just feel alive. It comforts you, right? Amid all the chaos of an unforgiven planet. You know, you find solace in that. Yeah, you can actually do it alone.
Right, because we do see it
happen. You can actually do it alone.
I see them. It's like solitary fun. You don't need any company. It's like you know, waking up and exercising, walking. You can do it on your own. Without the only thing that you need is its availability. That's the thing. That's the thing. Okay, we'll talk about how, you know, the measures or how far you had to go to access your Mogoka, because I mean it's a key commodity here for someone who's in this space. But James, there's a perception that in some way it's probably a lesser vice than hard drugs or alcohol. I think, is this what really makes it attractive, that kama staki pombe afadhali mira or Mogoka, you know?
Sometimes, but let me say, when it comes to behaviors, an addiction is addiction.
Period.
Period. An addiction is addiction.
It doesn't matter what
talk
got
of
you
Moka,
there.
talk of alcohol,
Yeah.
talk of those who are in marijuana and others. An addiction is an addiction.
Okay.
Because it eats you almost the same. But now when you look to the cost-effective part of it, sometimes Moka is quite cheaper compared to other drugs. And that's why you see majority of the youth, they like to kind of get this Moka. Because with 50 shilling or 100 shilling, you know, you have your Moka, you have maybe Big G, and nowadays they take it hard in hard with an energy drink, you know, and you know, they won't feel nice. You get the point. They want, and it is cost effective.
Right.
But eventually, it's not cost effective. Because as Caleb is saying, he become a daily consumer of this substance. So with the time, that means in a week, you have to spend like a minimum of 700 shilling probably, if you are getting the one of 50 shilling and maybe a few borrow grams here and there. So you see, it has its own cost. But compared to other drugs, it may be cheaper.
Okay.
But the common line is, and maybe our viewers need to hear this, an addiction is an addiction.
Right, that's a very important line.
Yes, an addiction is an addiction. And the consequences are more or less the same. Well, because at the end of the day, maybe we'll be discussing about this, you know, they affect the whole neurosystem of a person.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Talk of maybe alcohol, to still have some health effects. Moka the same.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So it's quite cheaper, but addiction remains an addiction.
And this is the thing, Caleb, when you think about how much or how far you had to go to access this, look at what he's talking about. You're there every single day. How much money are we talking about? How many hours are we talking about spent chewing that could have been used productively, you know? Think about it, what were kind of the responses that you're getting from your family and from your friends, those who did not understand, obviously, why you're chewing.
Mogoka is, okay, where I come from, Kitui, people farm it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people farm it. I can literally walk into a friend's farm and just pluck a couple of leaves and I'm out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually they'll encourage you to do that because the more you pluck, it's like tea leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoots are what get you high.
Yeah.
They have a higher concentration. It's not like mira. There's a difference between mira, cat, and mogoka. Mogoka, you consume the leaves.
Right.
Cat, it's the bark.
Right.
Yeah, so where I come from, mogoka is almost everywhere. Yeah, it's not that expensive actually. The moment it set into the market in Kitui, that was the end of cat.
Oh, really? Just took over?
Took over. One, like he said, it's cheap. Mogoka is cheap. A kilo of mira could go for probably 850, 1,500, depending on the type. Mogoka, you can have it for 30 shillings.
Oh my God! So mira is the top shelf
They
of
even,
the
they even
of the stimulant, because
the cream.
it's your gold labels, it's your blue label.
Yeah, it's the black labels of the Mogoka industry.
Right.
The mira industry.
Yeah.
They even have their own designed packages.
Right.
Yeah, from the companies. I
Right.
don't know how they do it, but then it's cheap. It's available, and probably that's why for me I never found it that expensive. However, like he said, it is so true that it is not cheap in the long run. It is not because of the accompaniments. Because now an energy drink, a bottle of an energy drink probably goes for 80 bob,
Right.
or 100 bob, and you're buying one sachet of Mogoka at 30 or 50 shillings.
Right.
So the accompaniment is much more expensive than the
actual,
Mogoka. But whatever is catalyzing you into this expenditure is the high that you get from the Mogoka.
Right. Yeah.
So that is what blinds you, and that's that's the beginning of your downfall. Talking your destiny, your future, focus, it derails you from authenticity.
So this is not just a nighttime affair. It's not something that you were doing between 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. or whatever.
Mogoka has no time frame.
So you would start even in the afternoon?
It's not like alcohol where it's baada ya kazi.
Baada ya kazi,
Mogoka,
I like that.
Mogoka is whatever that gives you the energy to go and actually work.
Right.
Because now you're dependent on it.
Yeah.
It's prisoner, basically. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, people associate it with nighttime due to the guys who use it during those hours, like long distance drivers and stuff like that, because it has substances that keep you alert, on the other hand. So, it didn't have any time frame with me.
Okay.
Yeah, the moment you wake up, you have no appetite actually.
Yeah.
So you just eat vitu kidogo hapo and then straight into Mogoka and you're
your
good
day.
to go.
And that's your
Yeah,
day.
you get back to your self-created world.
Yeah.
And you're the commander there.
Wow.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Please give us your thoughts on this particular discussion. I mean, let me tell you, what a story. And I also like James's perspective on this, you know, coming in as the expert. What say you? Please go ahead and also get in touch with us through our social media platforms, including mine, which is at Shiko Kaittany. But, you know, just looking at, you know, the whole industry and, you know, what it does, the people I personally have engaged over it, you know, whether it's Mira or Mogoka, you will definitely see that there's the commonality being it as a mood changer. Okay, and so James, this is where I want you to jump in, because you look at these effects, you know, it talks about things like depression, anxiety, there'll also be episodes of psychosis. There's also too much talking that's associated with it. I don't know whether that's what you mean by literally stories are jabba, but but speaking about stories are jabba and many other effects, let's talk about the neurobehavioral changes that are associated with it, because you may be using it, but you don't actually understand that your mood is changing. You're not seeing the fluctuations in your behavior.
That's true.
Yeah, so tell us, I mean, what's expected?
Again, as I said, you know, it's other people who sees all these changes. To you, you may not be so much aware.
Yeah.
You know, these things is happening, but other people, they can see Shiko is no longer the same. you know? Yes, and as Caleb is trying to explain to us, at the first, we get that point.
Yeah.
You know, it is a full-time drug, you know, or it's a full-time substance. But at the beginning, for the sake of our viewers, those who start taking Mogoka, they start as a fashion. You know, it's a Friday substance. It moves from Fridays, become a Saturday substance.
Yes.
From Saturday to Saturday, now then it becomes a full-time substance all the time.
Right.
So that is very important. And as I say, that's how each and every drug starts.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun. Eventually you get stuck there. Then you start talking of addiction.
Right.
And it's a disease when we come to, you know, mental health.
Yeah.
Then back to your question. What are some of the behavioral changes and the effects of this health-wise? One, as Caleb is saying, and it's good he's here because this is a very practical example, you create your own world. In other words, now you come to me, I say that is psychosis world.
Yeah, you're like, what is happening?
You know what's happening, because you're moving from reality.
Yes.
And this is where now people start talking of hallucinations. You know, you listen to somebody who is chewing this, and the story he's telling you, he's totally on his own world. You know, he's hallucinating now.
Aki, it's for real. That's why it's called stories are jabba.
You know, and to some instances, they start thinking they are someone else than who they are.
Oh, wow.
That's why you see somebody like of trying to provoke even authority. Technically, the authority he doesn't have. You know, in medical out, that's what we call delusions.
Oh, wow.
You know, you are now having some psychosis issues that are making you hallucinate.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have some delusions. you are thinking, sometimes you are so high there, you know, as you are saying stories ajaba, they start believing they're high, they have made it in career. At literally the person who is chewing this is a school dropout.
Oh my gosh.
you know, that's not funny to hear him saying, you know, I'm a professor here and there, you know. It happens because these are psychosis attack. Now, as is the case in any other drug, the moment you enter the world of psychosis, attacks, you know, you're moving away from the reality. And now you start living on your own illusion world. At that moment, that's when you become addicted. It goes ahead and make you schizophrenic. You know, schizophrenic, there are some people who are chewing Moka, and you see them chewing around, and they are talking and laughing and responding.
By the way, that's so true.
You know, what does that mean? They have some auditory sounds that they are not into reality. You know, they are talking with their own instincts inside there. You know, that's what we call schizophrenia. And then, of course, it comes with very disorganized speech. And again, hallucinations and delusions, as I have said. You know, from there, now once it becomes schizophrenic, that's a mental illness. You know, that's a mental illness. Then it moves either toward depression, because now you are entering to the world of mood disorders. You know, you are going towards depression, or what scholars they call major depressive attacks. You know, you are going that side, or you are moving to the other side of anxieties. You know, all these are mood disorders. You know, and when it comes to anxieties, you can see somebody just trembling over nothing. They are fearing what is not there totally, because they are not themselves. And they are not into the real world. They are on their world. As Caleb is saying, you are creating your own world somewhere. You know, you see somebody behaving in a very funny way. Once you fall to the other side of depression, now that's the beginning of another story. And at this point, let me say, the moment any person falls into any form of mental disorders, your life is no longer the same again. And this treatment is not as cheap as people think. You know, it's an expensive journey now you are starting. And again, let me say this. This is the greatest report you will ever receive when people they say you're not mentally okay. It will bring down any career, including my career as a psychologist. The moment people say you're not mentally okay, whether they have assessed your anxieties or depressions,
because capturing the mind is capturing the entire being.
The entire being.
That's it.
The entire being.
That's it.
That's why you see, even if you are a teacher and you're into this behavior of mirror, right now it may start like a fashion. But eventually, anybody who is chewing mirror and it leads you to that world now of its effects, it totally now disorganizes your mental health. You know? And it is not easy to come out of there.
Okay. Let's hold that thought, because I want us to take a short commercial break. Listen to that, ladies and gentlemen. Once you begin and start heading down this road, look at what is waiting for you at the tail end of it. The question here is, if at all you've got a loved one who's actually into the habit of chewing, or you yourself, who's actually started the habit of, you know, hapa na pale umeanza, kuenjoy too over the weekend, just the way Caleb talked about. This is something to seriously think about. Let's talk a little bit more after the short commercial break. Understanding, first of all, what treatment options are out there. We'll also be hearing more about Caleb's journey on how he managed to overcome this. Stick with us as we take that short commercial break.
When it's a Saturday,